Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur on the Big Up platform. And in this video, we are going to be breaking down, reliving, re-glorifying that wonderful, wonderful day out in Manchester. We're the kings of Manchester. We just know how to get it done over there. Whichever team we come up against, we'll just smack them 3-0, 4-0, no problem. We could even have a weakened team and we'll still do it, no problem. We're going to be taking a look at briefly the stats just for, kind of satisfying my Yank preferences and my Yank desire of looking at a little bit of stats, but we're going to take a look at some screenshots, some tactical breakdown of what went pretty much mostly well in that game. I do have some interesting talking points. I'm not going to spoil for Dave yet because I do want to get his authentic, natural reactions to them. But then afterwards, we're going to do some, or maybe before that, sorry, I'm getting the order wrong, but some player ratings as well. Please, if you are watching this along and if you are joining us nice and early, do get involved in the chat, please. Give us your player ratings as we go through them. I think there's usually lots of room for negotiation, lots of room for debate on them. I know most of them are going to be pretty positive, so it should be a lot of fun. So, tell me why it should be a 9 instead of a 10, or tell me why it should be a 9 instead of an 8, and things like that. But Dave, we're going to be reliving the glory that we had in Manchester, smacking Pep Guardiola, turning him into the next Ten Hag of Manchester. And I'm looking forward to this little tactical breakdown. It's going to be nice and easy, nothing too complicated, nothing too stressful. It's going to be lovely.
No, it should be a nice, easy, sort of good laugh. Because at the end of the day, we absolutely dominated them. Player ratings are just going to be 10 across the board. That's going to be nice and quick and easy. But look, we absolutely dominate Manchester. And do you know what I love about this victory, Jack? With the manner of it and the dominance of it. And when you, like in my lifetime, we've never gone up to Manchester and took two teams like that, at the pinnacle of the game, and rolled them over in that sort of fashion. It's just about now bringing the consistency with it. So, and I do think it's sort of giving the players and the squads, or the players and the manager, some breathing room. So look, I'm looking forward to the Roma game, but let's dissect this. Let's bask in the glory once again.
And we have Jason Bellin with us nice and early. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend, Jason. Let us know any highlights of any kind, anything special that you ended up getting up to enjoy that nice Man City win. Let's just go briefly through some of the stats. Man City had plenty more shots than us. I think we can definitely recall that. More shots on target, though, in our case, showed that we were more clinical as well as, I think, more ruthless with the opportunities that we had. We both hit the woodwork. Shots off target, you can remember plenty of shots that Dave and I joked about that were souvenirs for the Man City fans. I think that was part of the reason why they were leaving early. It's just they kept being pelted by shots in the back end. And then you also had plenty of block shots from Man City, though, so it did show that we might have had more chances. Shots inside the box, they definitely got some opportunities there. And then you look at as well as sort of the possession stats, probably one of the only games this season where you'll see Spurs maybe with less possession than the other team. And expected goals, Spurs actually created probably the better chances on the day, created more big chances, which is definitely one of the better metrics, I think, to look at as well. And apart from that, goalkeeper saves 5-3, similar amount of, huge difference in fouls. Man City maybe tactically fouling us, trying to bring us down at any opportunity they could, so we didn't hurt them even more. But yeah, Dave, I don't know if there are any really noteworthy stats other than the fact that probably the big chances part, just that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is creating quality chances. And the fact that Spurs were able to create more than City, even if they created just as many, I think is a huge positive to take away.
Look, I think what the stats sort of show, Jack, is that, we were very clinical in front of goals compared to someone like Man City in terms of total shots and stuff like that. But, we spoke about it in the pre-match build-up that we're going to have to be clinical today. We're going to have to take our chances. And that's what we done at the end of the day. And we kept the clean sheet at the other end. I don't know how we quite done it, but we did. But look, we gave them a spanking, so not really too much really to take from there. What I would say is the shots on target is big. We got 7 compared to their 5. Look, we were just good on the day. We caught them lovely on the counter. What I think it does show is that they did sort of dominate a lot of the possession. We had to pick and choose our moments, and we done that quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Jason Bell saying our shooting efficiency really stood out to me. Typically, when we've lost this season, it's because we couldn't score in a brothel. I have felt the same way on a number of times this season, as well as even sometimes last season as well, Jason. I still don't think we're that clinical of a team personally, but this was a day where we absolutely were absolutely ruthless with the opportunities that we had. And just shows that if you play the style of football with Ange, and you can be ruthless. Talk about being devastating. Talk about being a real outfit that is hard to reckon with. Let's go on now to the player ratings here and see what we have in store for us. Let's just quickly average player positions. The one thing that I kind of took out from this is that normally when we have Brennan Johnson and the likes of, I'll maybe try to make this a bit easier for people to see. Maybe I'll just put all one screen. Of course, you guys can see us, can't see us at this moment in time, but if you do go to the screen there, you have Dragishin kind of sitting a little bit deeper, but then you have Pedro Porro like right next to him there, which I think is interesting because in the past we've had sort of this cluster of Pedro Porro, Kulusevski, as well as I think Brennan Johnson, kind of all
Mm,
huddled together, and it's made really good combinations. But I think it's kind of to bring the best out of each other. Where Brennan Johnson's a guy that might need a little bit of help, might need a little bit of assistance to hold up the ball, have someone that he can play off of, them running behind. He has that with Pedro Porro and Kulusevski. But since you're losing that pace down that wing, it seems like Kulusevski was just going to take up a much higher role, trying to press really high, trying to make those runs in behind. He had so many good moments of hold up play in that game. And I will say, I do recall that Pedro Porro was given a bit more license, it felt like, to really get forward and down that wing. I remember a couple of times where he was making some overlapping runs instead of maybe the inverted runs that he would normally make up for this team. And Pop Matsar as well, was able to get up and down the pitch, as was James Madison. But for me, Dave, that's the one maybe area of note is just normally if Johnson's in the team, we would see Porro, Kulusevski, and Johnson kind of all clustered together, tucked away on that right side. But since there wasn't a
mm.
Johnson, we actually had, maybe a little bit of a different shape over there.
Yeah, we did. And look, Kulu's positioning is very interesting, sort of an outball all evening in that game. Absolutely brilliant. But Porro sitting right on top of Dragusin, I think that definitely helped them out to a large degree as well. So yeah, happy days.
And let's move on now to the player ratings. Looks like Edward
You
Joker
got
Davis
Tyler?
wants to hop in here, so we'll add him in, and we'll zoom through these player ratings and then get on to the tactical breakdown. Let's add in the big Ed Meister, and I'll get you started off though, Dave. Guglielmo Vicario. I mean, probably kind of disrespected him. I remember on the watch long, I kind of
Mm.
felt like he didn't deserve to be in the man of the match rating. And then I look on Twitter, remember thinking what you said to me and everything. Like everybody felt like Vicario had a worldy of a game. So I must have missed a lot of those crack saves that he made, or there must have been other elements of the game. Go through Vicario's performance for me and give him a player rating. What was I
Yeah,
missing?
look, I gave you the option. You sort of vetoed putting Vicario on the man of the match, even though I thought he definitely should have been in there. And the reason why I thought he should have been in there, Jack, is because he pulled off a number of saves in the opening minutes. There was one where Haaland went low. He pulled off a couple of great one-on-ones, and in the second half, especially as well. He pulled off a couple of great saves, and some of them were close enough in as well. So for me, I thought he was absolutely outstanding all game long, even in terms of his distribution. It was quite good. Uh, for me, look, I thought everybody played well, but he was absolutely outstanding in goals. To come out of that with a clean sheet, you look at the amount of goals or the amount of shots they had, 23 shots, pulled off, I think, four or five really good saves during that game. So for me, I thought Vicario, I'd actually give him a 9. I thought he was outstanding on the night. But look, do you know what, Jack? I'm not surprised because I do think he is one of the best shot stoppers in terms of in world football. And do you know what, Jack? Something we didn't actually give him credit for after the game is now times he came out to claim things as well, which is
True.
not sometimes we don't give him a lot of credit for. So I actually think his all-round goalkeeping game was quite good on the night. So I give him a 9.
Wow, as high as a 9. Edward, would you match Dave's rating of a 9? Good to have you with us, sir. Let's zoom through these player ratings with you, my friend. Then we'll get on to the tactical breakdown. Am I being spoiled by Vicario? Is that why I didn't notice such a good performance?
Yeah, you probably are there, Jack. But he did have a great game, and yeah, 9 is definitely fair for him. 9.5 if you want to go as far as that, because he had an incredible game, some really good saves and one-on-one saves. There were some times when he got big, he made himself big, and there was a couple of saves he made with his chest towards the back end of the game because he just didn't have time to react with his hands, so he made himself big enough to not let them have enough a better shot at goal. So he did have a great game, and yeah, like Dave said, we didn't give him enough credit by the end of that game with the long with the claims he made within his box. He's definitely getting better at it, and hopefully we can see more of that in the future matches, especially against Fulham, who's a decent team at set pieces.
Absolutely. Well said. And it sounds like we're getting 9s all around for Vicario. So big 9s for the Vicky. Let's go to Pedro Porro. Thought he actually had a better game than Destiny Udogie. Not saying that Destiny didn't have as great of a game, but I thought Pedro had a lot more influence maybe going forward in this one for me. I thought he, like I said, was making some really good overlapping runs to help with Kulusevski, because with Kulusevski, you're going to get someone who can hold up the ball a bit better than Brennan Johnson, but you are going to miss some of that pace and that threat in behind. And I think Pedro was able to make up for that with some very unselfish runs during that game and scored a spectacular goal. I'll be honest, though, one that was laid up for Pedro Porro, I think you could just close your eyes and knew that was going to go in the back of the net, because the guy can strike a ball so well. And when you set it up for him like that, it's just going to go in. And all in all, I thought he had a very good game. I recall him actually attempting some more crosses as well, maybe than usual, and just didn't have as poor of a day. What it was, Galatasaray? Was his Ipswich? I think maybe one of those games. He had one of the worst games we'd seen him have. Ipswich, one of the worst games we'd seen him have in a long time. I think he bounced back in this one.
Do you know what, Jack? I think the goal probably glosses over the first half. I don't think he was great in the first half. Man City went down his side an awful lot. Him and Dragusin were sort of all over the place defensively for quite some while in that first half. But I think second half, I think it was absolutely outstanding. Once he scored that goal, as he was making tackles, his position was right. The amount of times he was in the right position to be able to intercept things. I think he went on from strength to strength after scoring that goal. But I do think the first half was a bit of a mixed bag for Pedro Porro. But all in all, I'll give him an 8. That second half was outstanding.
Anything different you would say, Edward, or does an 8 sound about right to you as well?
8 is solid. He definitely, like Dave said, went strength for strength after scoring that goal, and he did improve as the game got on, and that's lovely to see. I love Pedro Porro as a player. He's very talented on the ball, and he's definitely one of the best right backs in the league at the moment. In my opinion, he had a poor Ipswich game, but I think he really bounced back in this, and he really showed why he should be up there and shouldn't just be underrated by many of the other fan bases throughout the league.
Can I also add something as well? I think having Kulusevski back down that side does not expose Pedro Porro nearly as much as when Brennan Johnson's there. And I don't want to, harp on at the kid, but when Johnson's there, he's not inclined to maybe get back and offer that defensive support as Kulusevski is. Now, in fairness to Johnson, when he came on the left-hand side, I think he realised that, and, he did almost get back every single time to double up with Destiny Adoji. But I do think Kulusevski out there down that right really helped Porro out to a large degree.
I think you can make the balance point of, I think Johnson has shown improvement in his defensive work rate this season. By no means, though, is he perfect, or by no means is he, the finished product in that area. And there still are much, much better players in the team when it comes to that area of the team. I think Solanke is a much better presser of the ball. Kulusevski is a much better presser of the ball, as well as some others in the team. So that's a very good point to make there. Radu Dragusin being given a much higher rating by SofaScore than Ben Davies. With Radu Dragusin's performance, I find it funny because he played that really great long ball out wide to Kulusevski that got our first goal started. I thought he had a bit of a sketchy first 15 to 20. He kind of gave me some nerves there. But apart from that, I can't really remember too many other sketchy moments afterwards. And maybe he was able to find ways, if you're not so great on the ball, if you're not great in possession, maybe he found ways to, offload that responsibility to people like Ben Davies or maybe some other players in the squad. So Radu Dragusin, I thought he had a quietly professional and pretty solid performance. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'll group together Ben Davies here. Maybe I'm just falling in love with Ben Davies this season, but I felt like he had a slightly better game, actually. I'm a little perplexed by SofaScore giving him maybe a significantly worse one. Like 0.5, I think, is a big enough difference there. So for some reason, they think Ben Davies a little bit worse. Could anyone justify that? Or who's on the Ben Davies train? Who's on the Radu Dragusin train? Or did they have the same game, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, do you know what, for me? I actually thought Ben Davies was the better of the two on the day. I thought Ben Davies was brilliant in possession as well, actually. A couple of switches of play, defensively absolutely solid. Bar maybe the first, 5 minutes. I think there was a ball that came across him and Radu missed it, so he nearly scored from. Apart from that, I thought Ben Davies had a really good game. But you know what, Jack? The more I think about it, I know I've graded on Ben Davies and I am giving him a lot of praise this season. But I wonder, are we only seeing the improvement because his contract's coming up? When he was safe and the contract wasn't coming up, he wasn't that reliable. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that. I know some people say, Dave, you have an agenda, but, I do say no smoke without fire. The evidence is possibly there to maybe suggest that. When it comes to Radu Dragusin, He got absolutely spun by Savino at one point. I was starting to become concerned because he was all over the shop. He was so rag. But I do think maybe from 30 minutes onwards, I think he really sort of grew into the game, settled in nicely. And I think he went on to have a really good game. But I'm not sure why he's got a better rating than Ben Davies. I don't understand that. Again, I think there's a job there for me or you, Jack, if we ever want it, because they're clearly not watching the Spurs games right. But it's hilarious because my dad texts me. He's a big Radu fan. He texts me after the game. He's like, I told you Radu can play. And I was like, yeah, but I told you Ange ball works. So it's like, horses for courses. But Eddie, on to you.
Yeah, like
did they have the same game, Eddie, is my question, or did one person have a better game than the other? Would you?
Ben Davies, definitely. He had a better game. I feel like he just did more without the ball and with the ball. I felt like they said, he did get both him and Jorgensen got caught out by that one ball that went in between each other. But I felt like Davies made an effort to try and track Haaland. There was a couple efforts when you saw Haaland was on the ball and going for a shot, but Davies was there actually tracking him and forcing him more out wide and more out of that comfort zone to shoot at, which is giving Bukayo more time to get into position to stop the shot. So I felt like Davies did better in that sort of aspect of trying to limit the shooting space for the City attackers and really shut them down. And I just feel like this is going to be a common theme we'll see with these two pairing in Europa League and the Cups. When we see these pairings between Davies and Jorgensen, they just, I don't know what about them. I just feel like Jorgensen's great one-on-one defender and it's quite good at those tackles, when Davies is very good with his long balls and very good playing out from the back. And I just feel like it really suits and really plays off one another. And I don't know what Silvershore is doing here, because Davies definitely didn't have a worse game to Jorgensen here. He definitely deserves a higher rating here. At least it's at least a 7.5 for me for Davies. Didn't do anything spectacular, but he put in a good job and put in a good effort. And Jorgensen's probably a 7, just a bit lower than Davies in this game.
I also would err a side of caution that, this partnership is set to blossom. They got massively helped out by the midfield and the wingers getting back, not leaving as much gaps in front of them in Europe. When they're playing with some of the younger guys, there's going to be a lot more space. So, just because they perform well, Man City, I wouldn't exactly necessarily say it's going to happen against Roma 100% either, but chances have to sit off them, then they'll have a good game.
Destiny Udogie, anything that anyone, I think one person could take this. I don't really know if there's much to point out with this performance. I can't really recall too much that he did wrong defensively in this game.
Was he tested though, Jack?
Exactly. That's what I mean. Did he do anything wrong, or did he do anything right? It was just solid, I guess.
He didn't get tested. Yeah, Kyle Walker, and I pointed it out all game. Don't go and close him down, because he doesn't want to cross the ball. He doesn't want to beat you. He wants to cut inside and find little Phil Foden running into the pocket. That's all he done all game. He did not get tested on the outside, but he still had a good game.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie, nothing else to add really, right? That Destiny Udogie kind of, not like he was just a bit, not where the center of the attention was.
No, I can think of one mistake he made, but even then led to nothing in the end. So I can't really do anything with Udogie. He's just had a really solid game defensively. Like Dave said, didn't get tested at all. I don't recall who the winger was for the right-hand side at the on the day against Udogie. But yeah, they just didn't test him, and it was just an easy game. So a solid performance all around for him.
I do think he was good on the ball though as well. In fairness, going forward, he had good link-up play down that side with the likes of Son and Madison. I will say he was helped massively with them constantly looking to take the ball off him, but he did have a good game.
It's also interesting to see.
That's every game really with him, Son and Madison. Whenever they link up, they're always doing these little overlaps between each other. So it's something I expect to see from Udogie every game.
Before we move on into the midfield, we've got comments there from Jason Bell and Nick. Jason Bell says, I've always thought Davies was a solid player, but when he's playing with 5+ other backups, like what we see in Cups, his lack of quality really shows. And Nick sort of doubles down on that point. He says, previous years, Davies had Dyer and Sanchez as partners and a lot more responsibility. Ange knows how to work with. Ange knows how to work. Who to work with now, and he has less pressure on him. equals better Ben Davies.
Ergo, better Davies, yeah.
Look, I do get what people are saying, but to my point, when he was in the comfort zone and his contract wasn't running up, he slacked off, and that it happens. It's natural, right? As a human being, when you're earning way beyond the money you could ever comprehend your football ability being able to earn you, you are going to hit that comfort zone when you're given that contract. But now his contract is coming up, and from my understanding is that there was maybe an agreement between him and club that they were going to part ways at the end of the season. So either he's trying to earn a new contract or Tottenham, or he's trying to earn himself a new club. But where was that same sort of performances in years previous is my question. I do take the point. Yes, Sanchez, Dyer, and that does not help him. I do take that point. Fair enough, I suppose. But I think there's a bit in both, to be brutally honest.
The way I feel with Davies is with Davies, I do kind of subscribe to the theory. And I think we've had these conversations a long time ago, maybe, Dave. But we did sometimes say, Davies, we're not biggest fans of his. By no means we're his fans. No. But like, we have been tried to be fair in the past by saying, like, is he sometimes unfairly grouped together on the same level of shit? Level of shit as like Dyer and Sanchez? I think sometimes he would be. And because it rolls off the tongue, it's easy to say Dyer, Davies, Sanchez all together. But I would say Davies was far more capable of producing, how do you put it? Like, Davies absolutely had stinkers, but he seemed like his stinkers were nowhere near as bad as sometimes a Dyer stinker or a Sanchez stinker. And sometimes his good games were better good games than Sanchez or Dyer or others as well. And I've seen it for Wales. Like Wales, he'll have like an incredible performance defensively and whatnot. So the guy has it in him probably more often than Sanchez or Dyer did. And you might be right, Dave. All of his friends being taken away, his little clique being taken away, and also contract renewal. all the motivation a guy could need.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that theory that is probably contract is probably helping him trying to earn that new contract, earn a new club. But I also want to add that his best years and best seasons at Spurs has been under an attacking manager, under attacking sort of football, like we saw with Pochettino, and now we're seeing with Ange. He has been doing well under this sort of system compared to a defensive system where he does have more defensive responsibilities when he's better with the ball at his feet, playing out with it, like we're seeing now.
But look,
never heard of the term sandbagging. I'm looking it up now. That's a very fascinating term. Not even sure what it really means.
I presume it's sort of I presume it means like sort of slacking or something like that. I presume like, comfort zone. Look, one thing I will say is, despite my reservations, I think he's been absolutely brilliant this season. And I don't have any complaints about him on the football pitch whatsoever. But I do listen to a lot of people, a lot of players that played the game, and they have said sometimes when you know you're playing for a move, you up your game. That's all I'm saying. Just got to leave it with you guys. That's all.
I think you're just getting the full package there. You're getting, the praise that Davies deserves from Dave, but then you're getting a little tinfoil hat, thrown in there as well, thrown into it, everything you could need.
What I will say, if this is his last year, what a way to sign out.
Yeah, seriously. What a way to shut people up.
Because it will undo the last 4 or 5 years of hurt that he's made me, sort of feel. It will. And many like me, the last thing you remember Ben Davies is that last season he had,
Shuts me up. I mean, he shut me up for sure.
Especially if he helps us to a double.
James Madison, he wins a trophy in his final year. James Madison and Yves Bissouma, Pop Montassar. Yves Bissouma. This is the funny thing is I have 1 or 2 moments that I'll pick out with him.
Well, you wanted him in the man of the match poll, so you're going to have to explain your decision.
No, I think it was Sarr. Didn't I want Sarr in it, or did I?
No, it was Bissouma. I said Bissouma or Vicario.
What was I thinking? I must have been that just overwhelmed by the defensive output, because I thought defensively he was immense defensively. Like,
and it's not something we praise him for, right?
Well, I do think he is good defensively. I just don't think he's as good as Bentancur can be on a consistent basis. But I do think he can chip in and just cover so much ground. Like, that's the thing with Bissouma, is that in terms of lateral distance across kind of the midfield, blocking up passing lanes, trying to get in the way, putting a foot in, to someone. He's very good at that. He can just sort of be everywhere all at once. Pop Montassar, kind of the same thing. And I thought them together really struck up a great defensive wall and a great defensive partnership. And they were just winning the ball back, churning the ball over. was really good from that defensively. I just would say, like with Basuma with me, once again, in possession, he makes me nervous every now and again. He makes me nervous because he'll have the touch of a truck, or he'll end up, taking 1 or 2 extra touches on the ball that make me uncomfortable, and just things like that. He just doesn't have, he doesn't ooze the same class that I think Bentancur does in possession. But defensively, I'd nearly give him a 10 defensively, because to start off with a yellow card inside 20 seconds and then put in a defensive performance like that is actually incredible. It's almost like he wanted to play with an arm behind his back or something like that, type of game. So fair play to him. Defensively, give him a 10. In possession, maybe I'm being harsh. I just still don't think he's nearly as good as Bentancur. I still see a huge difference.
Yeah, do you know what? With Basuma, for me, I was very frustrated with the yellow card. I was like, this guy, when Ange needs him most, he's going to tap out and let him down. Because it was really annoying, because he got the ball under control and then just ballooned it ahead of him and started sprinting towards it and took the player out. And it's something I keep seeing of Basuma sometimes when he's facing that way with the ball, and it really does become irritating. But it made him tune in for 90 minutes. Every time he was going in for a tackle, I was like biting my face. But he timed every single one of them absolutely perfectly. And I think he gave a real sort of industrious performance in that midfield defensively, which is some areas I think he's maybe been caught lacking a little bit at times. I do not think he's a number 6 at all, but he filled in there brilliantly. And do you know what, Jack? I have a theory with Basuma. If he's playing with his back, or if he's playing facing our goal, he'll do everything perfectly. It's when he gets turned and looks forward, I think he just sees the goal and gets a bit giddy. Because anytime he was getting the ball for most of that game yesterday, he was facing our goalkeeper, and it was just first time bop, relieving the pressure, and then helping us play forward. I think one thing he's learned, especially in that game, which I think he can take forward, is he doesn't always need to get the ball and try and get turned. That's where he usually gets his pocket picked. If you're a number 6, you should already be scanning either shoulder when that ball is coming to you, if your back is towards, if you are facing your own goal, to see what's coming. But second of all, if you know someone's within a 5-10 yard radius, you don't take that risk and you just pop it off and leave it for someone else to play for it. And I think he got that part of the game absolutely spot on. So I'd give him a solid 8, to be fair.
Yeah, I think he probably is around that for me as well. Maybe I'm just still missing Bentancur that quickly. Pop Matasar, unless you had anything to add about Basuma, Eddie, I could give you the Pop Matasar rating.
I'll take Sar. I don't have much to add for Basuma. I like you covered it all. Really, it was a solid game, solid performance from him. So 8 is fair. But yeah, Sar. Oh, what not to say about Sar? Sar was
he's on fire.
That was incredible. This game. I don't know what Sophie was doing, giving him a 7.2. That's disrespectful. The amount of times he won back the ball in the midfield, and he's done it the whole season. He's turned a new leaf this season. He turned to Ange as like, this is my position. I will not lose to these other midfielders, Kulusevski, the Bargwell, or Archie Gray. I will keep my position. This is my spot. And he's done this so well this season. He's constantly winning back the ball, constantly looking to attack, constantly moving the ball forward. And this kid has a great pass on him. Like the long balls he plays sometimes are incredible and magnificent. I'm just really excited for his future at this club, because sky's the limit with this guy. Because this I don't feel like any of the midfielders had a great game this game. Bukula Paparatasar, he stole that ball off any of the midfielders the moment they got it. He kept putting pressure on them, kept making them worry about him, making sure they're not settled in the game at all. And he just had an incredible game. So a 7.2, that's disrespectful for him. I will put him at a 9, high as a 9.5, because he was just immense this game. It really led to this 4-0 domination of Man City.
I think Edward made a very good point there, Dave, about once he got his chance again to get back into the team, because he didn't play that well in the preseason, kind of maybe was then on the periphery of, the starting roles. Like, he's always used as an impact sub, but he then gets his chance to be a starter, and he's just taken it in full stride and just has practically, nailed his, spot to the board, basically. So fair play to the kid, really. It's going to be very hard to take that spot away from him now.
Well, I think he's 22 years of age, Jack. And, one thing I've always said about Papa Matasar is he can do all aspects of the game. You know, you've seen it in glimpses under Conte, you know, last season. We've seen in glimpses, you know, that and I've always said about him, Jack, if he pulls that together, we've got one hell of a player on our hands. And when you look at Papa Matasar, just the way he gets around the pitch, and he's absolutely built for this midfield, by the way. Look how long his legs is. Look how tall the guy is. He just gets around effortlessly. He gets in there. You look at him, you go, oh, yeah, okay, he's a big guy, but he's quite skinny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anybody knocking him to the ground. In fact,
No.
he just gets in there, digs the ball out. And then what was worrying most people or frustrating most people earlier on in the season is when he was digging that ball out, he didn't necessarily have the right pass or whatever to go with it or lay it off. I think what we're seeing now is a much more confident Sarr getting on that ball, striding forward, playing it out wide, switching play, linking up with others. You know, I think we've got one hell of a player on our hands. And do you know why I'm going to back this kid to succeed? Is because, unlike others, this kid does not have an ego. I don't even think he knows how good he can be.
It seems that way, or he also just seems like a very simple, just like happy kid, you know, like
I
he's
mean,
happy
not a
to be
footballer, that's a computer engineer.
wants to be a software engineer after he's finished playing football. But he's always just happy, just seems to be enjoying time, seems to be family oriented, goes back to, you know, his town. And I think in Senegal gives them, you know, a lot of time as well. It just, you know, I follow him on Instagram, as you know, Dave, a lot of the players like Pop Matsar. I think he just seems to well-rounded, very humble kid, like you say there. On to James Maddison. This was probably James Madison's, I've said this once before, and maybe this season, his best ever performance in a Spurs shirt. Maybe this one really is the best ever performance in a Spurs shirt. Just defensively, track back, won the ball back, but then in possession, that's really where he stole the show. He was just liquid. He was sauce out there, Dave.
Well, he's played himself back into the midfield. It's that simple off the back of that performance. And, you know, maybe anyone that's thought my criticisms of Maddison may have been harsh, he's done exactly in that game the stuff that I said he was shirking. Dropping deep, commanding that ball, looking to spearhead attacks, getting us going forward, out of possession, get in there, get stuck in. And also, when you get tackled, don't roll around, get up and look to play on. And that's exactly what he done. All the things I've criticised the guy about his game, he absolutely demonstrated an answer to me that he can do it. So my criticisms were justified. Credit to him, he's played himself into that midfield for the Roma game and the game at the weekend. He probably starts both, to be quite honest with you, because he doesn't have as much football or minutes in his legs as other midfielders around him. So, you know, he's played himself back in the midfield. The only last question I have is, was it because it was his birthday, or is this here to stay and going to continue? That's my big problem. Because where was this in previous games? I'm not being funny. On my birthday, if I've got a game, I feel good. You know, the missus made me feel good. You know, I go in there, I'm absolutely loving life. I ball out, I come out, cock of the walk. I'm going to have a great party that night. Because I can guarantee you, if he went out and had a party after that game and he didn't play well, it would have been all over the headlines, etc. So he knew he needed to play well in order to go out and celebrate it. So I'm going to hold back on him just a little, just to see whether it's here to stay or whether it was, so he could go out and have a good night.
Well, I just say then treat every game like it's your birthday, James Maddison, and then you can put in those performances on a regular basis. Edward, I thought he was sensational. Just even the way that times when he was under pressure, he would just manipulate the ball in just these different ways, you know, little like flip flap of turns and little pirouettes, you know, when you least expect it. He was just absolutely sensational and was really sharp, creating chances, getting stuck in. Pretty much a complete performance, I thought, from Madison. And of course, two exceptional finishes.
Yeah, complete performance, acceptable finishes, did well defensively, did well with the running. Like that goal, this first goal he scored, the running he saw that goal, he saw where that goal was coming, he saw what Kulu was going to do, and he sprinted for that ball, and it was well done and well worked by both Kulu and James Madison. But the only problem here, and it's a conundrum for both Spurs YouTubers predicting lineups and Ange Postecoglou. What to do with the midfield, because this is now a conundrum that is a good conundrum where we have so many good midfielders competing for that role, competing for these roles, that we don't actually know how Ange is going to set up this midfield. Is he going to go with 2 10s and 1 6? Is he going to go with 2 6s and 1 10? That's the big problem here. Is because now that Maddison is back in form, does Ange stay with Maddison, or does he stay with pretty much Mr. Consistent Dejan Kulusevski and pop him back into that midfield and put Johnson back out there for the Roma game or the Fulham game where he might shoot Johnson's game better, because I feel like the reason Johnson was dropped for this game was because Ainge tactically thought Kulu would do better in that sort of physicality battle compared to Johnson and what we needed for physicality. So we might see Maddison or Kulu drop to the bench, or we might even see 2 10s for that Fulham game and drop Basuma and have Papa Basar as the holding midfielder. So I say for a lot of things, don't get too carried away. We might see Maddison drop or Kulu drop for the next 2 games. We'll see what Ange wants to do. But if he goes back to Maddison and Kulu, I wouldn't be shocked at all. And I know a lot of fans don't want us to go back to 2 number 10s. We've been playing better with a 6, 2 6s and 1 10s. But don't be shocked if he does, because just both attacking midfielders have been so immense this game. And pretty much to this season, they've been pretty good. So don't be shocked for the Fulham or one more game if he does do that.
Do you know what? For me, I don't think you don't really change a winning side. I can understand them changing it for Roma. You don't change it for Fulham at the weekend. I think this lineup brings the right balance and what we need. You know, what we need in this team is robust players that are physical, that can earn the right to play when games are going tough. And I think this is the right lineup. You know, I think Dejan Kulusevski is that good that he can play right wing, through the middle, left wing, up front. We've seen him play up front last season. He can play anywhere across. You know, he's that sort of versatile player. But when you look at the midfield, I think it gives us the right balance. The only thing I would say is if Bentancur was back available for Premier League selection, I would still prefer him over Basuma in that midfield currently. But Papa Matasar has just as good contributions as the likes of Kulusevski and Maddison going forward. So in effect, you can get away with him playing in there because he gives you both sides of the game. So as long as James Maddison continues to offer you both sides of the game, I think having Kulusevski back out on the right is the right thing to do. He absolutely bullied Guardiola. He also helped Dominic Solanke in terms of take some of the physical load, in terms of help take some of the pressing load.
Yeah.
He got back, helped the midfield. He gives Pedro Porro a lot better cover. And the biggest thing for me is that cross for James Maddison. Now, I know in years gone by, people have criticised his crossing, but I've always said, if you've got players running in towards the back post, them crosses are absolutely perfect. They're a dream for you. That ball he delivered to Maddison, Johnson is just not capable of doing that whatsoever. So against teams low block that are going to play low block systems against us, he has to play out there because he has that ability to be able to cross the ball. Whereas Johnson don't. He has that ability to take on players, take them out of the game. Johnson doesn't. So as long as Papa Matasar and James Maddison keep performing like that in midfield, I think you will see Kulusevski back out on the right.
I'd also just add that I think when you have Maddison and Kulusevski together, like I brought up before with Maddison being dropped, I do think you get a much more kind of dynamism and fluidity in kind of the way that our moves do kind of come about, because you have more quality into the final third. You're adding guys that do know how to find little passes, little maybe touches of the ball that others just simply don't, that others just aren't as good as them at being able to be that silky, that creative, just that genius really in those moments. And to have 2 of them, to have 2 number 10 like minds and Kulusevski and Maddison both together, and then to match it with really good quality with someone like Sonny, who we know is just going to make the right decision most times and going to be able to execute passes and be able to execute taking on his man. I think if you go for the route of having just more quality on the pitch, you can end up, being able to see even more lovely goals, even silkier moves, even better ways to try to break down a team. And I think you get that with Maddison and Kulu together personally. On to the forward line. And there are actually some good comments. And by the way, some of your comments, guys, I actually am thinking would be good talking points for Dave and I kind of during the week, as well as some future videos, especially with Jason Bell talking about maybe Basuma at one point in the future. If he were to keep his Spurs spot, could be him playing a bit of a further role. I know a lot of people think he's better as a number 8, better as a number 10. I'd be curious to have that conversation one day. And then also Lazy Hate Nick bringing up how the board might look at a result like this as a reason not to continue to back Postecoglou and only to kind of drip feed him little signings here and there instead of really going gung-ho to back him fully. And I think that's other very good talking point there. But on to the forward line, Dave. I think Sonny, like, I don't know, like, not really a critical performance, not really anything I could say against him, but he wasn't nearly as good as Kulusevski. He wasn't as good as Madison. He had a wonderful pass that set up James Madison for that second goal. Really great finish, really great pass from Sonny, though. And Dominic Solanke, again, like, I think he did really well to set up Pedro Porro, really unselfish, really composed. Really just was a performance again where he just works his tail off, does a lot of the unselfish things. So for me, like Sonny and Solanke, maybe not the stars of the show of the front line in this game.
Do you know, I thought Son didn't. I thought obviously, I think 4 out of 4 players were better on the night. But Sonny did have that great assist for Madison as well. But do you know what? He still draws players into him because of the danger he possesses, if you know what I mean. He sort of draws more attention than, say, what Kulu would. Eventually, Kulu's going to start drawing that attention if he keeps performing the way he is. But I think others are beneficiary of the amount of attention that Son does attract. It does open up spaces for other people that may not necessarily be there. For instance, if you had a Werner out there, you only send one player out there instead of 2 or 3. But all in all, look, he had a decent evening, and I think it was the right thing to do. I think on, 55-ish minutes, I think he took him off, 60 minutes bought on Brennan Johnson. I think it was the right thing to do. Because Son, he's not a guy that's going to track back, because of how good he is on the ball and how deadly he is on the ball. You almost don't want him to waste his energy on it. He's also 33 years of age. Yeah. So, it was wise to bring on Johnson and just say, look, forget about going forward. Just run forward on the counter, but get back and help Destiny Adoji. Lock up that left-hand side, make sure that, pick up that pocket that Phil Foden keeps running into and Kyle Walker keeps laying it back. I think he done that very well on the night. But Son, look, good contribution. And I think it's wise resting him now so he has more in his legs to give us come the end of the season. As for Dominic Solanke, he's really starting to remind me a lot of myself. For instance, most of the strikers on that pullback to Porro, they would have been greedy and looked to try and score that themselves because no one's provided them any chances, and stuff like that. And it's sort of like, well, the work rate I've done, I'm going to be greedy. I deserve it. But he didn't. He still had the coolness, the calmness. He said, you know what, it's a team game. Laid it off to Porro, let him go and get his goal. And I absolutely love that unselfishness from Dom Solanke. However, he did have that half chance that he took on the edge of the box. Yeah. I think it was either saved or whatever. He's got to do much better there. I think he just snatched at it. I think because the chances are not coming as fluid as he would like or as much as he would like. I think when they do come, he started snatching at it a little bit, which concerns me because someone like him, he's good. He might only get 1 or 2 a game in this sort of system. He has to show that composure. And all he had to do was roll at either side of Ederson and he scored. He put it high and he smashed it. So I would say that's the criticism. I think he needs to do better. But one thing I do love about this guy is sometimes we just play long, diagonal, aimless balls. Centre-backs usually think, I've seen many strikers that I'm not even arse chasing that. Centre-backs take it down, get turn play out. This guy will just go and smash the centre half, keeps them occupied, batters and bruises them, and I absolutely love that because what it does do, it breaks the ball down, means others can push up and get behind it. I think he does a lot of unselfish work. Reminds me a lot of myself.
I completely agree with your point about the few chances that he does get. He doesn't take them with a lot of composure, though. No. Like, he does kind of snatch at them, and he does need to improve in that area. I have the same exact criticism for him because he'd just be helping himself out a bit more. I agree with you.
Well, I think
he doesn't get the service that he deserves. He doesn't get the service he deserves. But when he does get those little moments, you got to take them, because then it's a complete performance. Because then it's like a perfect performance. But he doesn't always end up having, I think, those perfect performances because he will miss maybe that chance or two like that. But he doesn't get as many as like a Darwin Nunez gets, or as many as Holland gets, or as many as others get. So you feel bad for him at the same time.
But here's the thing, though, Jack. I think at Bournemouth, he finishes that composure, that confidence flowing through him. Composure, he takes one touch, and I think he just finishes that. I think at Tottenham, I do think maybe it's the pressure getting to him a little bit.
Yeah, but he's just making up for it, I guess, in all the other ways. That's it. And fair play to him. But it's very fitting that Dave sees himself as a tall, lanky, handsome number 9, and as his true form. I don't blame him
Well,
at
when
all,
you look at
Edward.
my FIFA game and you compare it to Dom Solanke's, it's actually quite similar. I go and challenge for everything. I muck in, drop deep, get on the ball, play other people in. When you actually think about it, Jack, it's very similar.
I would say Solanke's just less of a maverick Solanke than yourself, Dave. Maybe he could add that to his game. Dejan Kulusevski. I think him and Madison are both deserving of 10s. I think as well, Eddie wanted to give like Sarr practically a 10, it sounded like, or at least close to one. I think Kulusevski was also up there. Felt like we had 3 almost perfect performances from Madison, Sarr, Kulusevski. They were the stars of the day for me. And Kulusevski, for me, it was really the hold-up play in particular today. There's so many times when I agree with Dave that when we do knock it long, or Solanke is usually the guy to chase after it, bring it down, bring others into play. But this game in particular, I felt like Kulusevski was doing a lot of that work, actually, where there were times when it was just kind of a rogue bouncing ball kind of for anybody to really collect. It was kind of anybody's ball. And then Kulusevski is just throwing himself under it, throwing his shoulders about, throwing his hips about, and just somehow always gets it under control. And then not only that, then finds a way to then get past that guy after bringing it down under control as well. He's just putting in incredible performances. And maybe kind of just like Pedro Porro, felt like he had a bit of a stinker, I remember, against Ipswich, made up for it with just an incredible display in this one. And Kulusevski just, I don't know, I think everyone's becoming a Kulu fan in the Premier League if they haven't been already.
Do you know what? I'm starting to find my Harry Kane replacement, Jack. When I look at him, there's such similar sort of traits with Kulusevski. And do you know what's scary? The guy is starting to know how good he can be. He's starting to become aware of it, but he also knows, and I think he really knows, how strong he is compared to most other players in that league. And that's why you see him chasing down them balls that is a 60-40, because if he can just make up that 10%, and he backs his physicality to knock them off the ball and create a chance. Whereas when I've seen Brennan Johnson at times, you've heard me say it sometimes, Johnson, because he's not getting up there on the press as quick as he should when Solanke's pressing the goalkeeper. He's sort of leaving that pass and then going. Kulusevski just goes, man, and he does because he knows his own physical strength, and he knows if he can catch them on the ball, he's taking that. So, look, all-around great performance from Dejan Kulusevski, and I have to say, I think my backing of him has to be one of the hottest takes ever in football.
Edward, was this the best Kulusevski performance, or were there better ones this year?
No, this year. Yeah, this is the best performance from Kulu I've seen in a while, and it's just, I don't know, it's just something about him. You don't see this from a big, tall, and muscular guy when he just has such silkiness to him. If you haven't seen, there's a bunch of clips going around of him absolutely doing Gundogan, and then I think it's I forgot who else it was.
Kyle Walker.
I think it was Kyle Walker absolutely doing them with his skills and setting up the second goal for Pedro Porro. He's absolutely done them. He spun them completely. And you don't see this from a big guy. You don't see this sort of silkiness, this sort of play. And it's just incredible to watch. And honestly, I just will probably, for me, he's definitely coming to that Harry Kane level of being that Harry Kane replacement of that sort of, this is the main guy who will help lead the attack forward going forward. He can affect that attacking line all throughout. He can play on the left, he can play in center, play on the right, he can play centrally. He can do most of anything in this sort of system, and hopefully he can keep on being that consistent, keep on bringing that consistency that we need to this team, and hopefully he can lead this team in future, because this sort of consistency, he can easily become a future leader of this club if he does keep on this consistency, keep on this path, because he just have such an awe about him. And you said, Dave, some players are going to stop absolutely trying to triple team him or just trying to stop him any way they can, but I don't feel like they can at all, because he got that silkiness, because he had that muscle, and he's stronger than most players. If he keeps getting better, he'll be unplayable in this league, and we'll just see him going stride to stride throughout the season, and he'll get even better.
Well, Gary Neville does a podcast with Sky Sports. He does a 15-20 minute roundup of sort of the games on a Sunday with a guy, and he said of Kulusevski, he said he's been sensational this year, but that performance is the sort of performance that's going to garner the interest of your Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, teams like that. And if he keeps going into this trajectory, he feels like it's going to be very hard for Tottenham to hang on to him.
Mm.
And I do sort of understand what it means.
Well, because he's so unique.
When you see it, when you're Eddie's spot on, look at the size and the frame of the guy. You think he's going to be clumsy on the ball. Look at the way he just maneuvers that ball very, very quickly. The way he has the agility just to jink and gone. And then when he gets going, he's like Moussa Dembele. He's impossible to sort of take off the ball. I'm going to start dubbing him Messi, to be brutally honest. He's absolutely sensational, the Terminator. And just a measure of how good he is. And it's why I was sort of bemused when people were sort of maybe of the opinion to maybe ship him on in the summer if an offer came in and stuff. Because it's like, well, this guy can play through the middle. He can play out right. He can play out left. Or he can play up front and still score goals. Shows how good of a player he really is. And I've said that before about players, Jack. Sign of a good player, that is if you need them to play in a different position, they're competent and can still contribute to the game. In years gone by, you know, we've made excuse for players. Oh, he's playing out of position. It's like, yeah, but it's still football at the end of the day. You know, all he has to really garner is position. And at the end of the day, the rest of it is still the same. Control the ball, pass the ball, head of the ball, cross the ball, etc., etc. So it shouldn't be that put off. So is he a system player? Kulusevski ain't a system player. This guy will play in any system anywhere. We've seen that. Under Kulu down, or under Conte down the right-hand side, sensational. Under Ange playing more front foot football, sensational.
Took the words out of my mouth, Dave. He's a beautiful, beautiful blend of strength as well as deceptive skills, right? Where he's so strong and built, but then you don't really expect him to have the quality and technical skills that he has in possession and the ball carrying skills and the way he can manipulate the ball, taking it past defenders. It's such a unique skill set because majority of the time, someone who dribbles the way that he does, usually they're kind of in that 5'5", 6", you know, kind of small, like kind of a Eden Hazard type build, whereas he's just totally different. He's built like a battering ram, and that makes him a very unique profile compared to other players. And like you say, then that's what makes him special to the Bayern Munichs and whatnot of this world. Jason Bell saying we have a lot of players that are going to get interest from top clubs. If we want to keep them, we need to build a squad that can win games, and we got to break out of our wage structure. That's the thing, though, Jason, is once some of these players really start to get the recognition and really start to attract that interest, that's when you have to start winning games and start winning trophies as well, because then you make them want to question, well, if I do leave, if I'm going to be missing something special, you know, here, am I going to be leaving something really special behind? And that's what you want to give them that feeling of. If they don't feel like there's really much that they're going to be leaving behind, it won't take very much for them to want to leave. Even if they might like being at Spurs, they want to win trophies, these guys. Every player does, especially at this level. So they have to get that feeling that, you know what, something is cooking here, like something is brewing here, and I don't want to miss it. So up to Daniel Levy and up to many people involved, Johan Lange, everybody involved to deliver that.
What I would say is if we can get this sort of style of play going and being more consistent, they're more than likely going to stay playing this sort of football. Because a lot of players, when you speak to them, they rather play the attacking side of the game, especially the better players. Yeah. That's what they want to do. Then if we had a more pragmatic or there'd be more of a Jose or a Conte here, they'd be more inclined to stay playing Ange ball. But also on that, we have cleared a lot of the wage bill off, which means there is room that when these guys' contracts are coming up, that we can sort of, and to be honest, I don't think we're actually going to break the wage structure. I think we have the ability to actually put it back to where it was by offering these guys bumper wages. So the opportunity is there, but I do think it sort of pays homage to a lot of people call him Colin Barr, myself and Jack, but Don Paratici and his recruitment, because, you know, one thing in years gone by under other people's recruitment, the only two players that have really sort of moved on from Tottenham to a better club with more prestige, you would argue, is Harry Kane and surprisingly Eric Dyer over the last few years. The rest of them have all left to go on to do worse or go down to worse clubs or clubs maybe not as big as Tottenham. Whereas I think a lot of the players that Paratici signed, if they were to leave Tottenham, bar if we hold on to them till they're like 31, 32, will go on to your Real Madrid's, PSG's, Barcelona's, Munich's, things like that.
Absolutely. Very, very good conversation on the player ratings, everybody. Lots of very clippable conversations and moments there. I thought you guys both had really brilliant things to say, but we still have to get through some of these screenshots here. And One of them, Dave, and I can't let you go off too long because we've got fan show and stuff later.
I'm
But
not even going to go off on it. I'm not going to.
I just thought I'd make you happy by showing some of this. There are plenty of examples I found where we did have a debate with people about. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Ange adapted. He changed his tactics for this game." And it's like, yes, like he's probably every game making little micro tweaks, I believe, here and there that we might notice, and pick up on. But he's not making the radical changes that you might think that he is. He is still by far employing the same exact philosophy and principles from the get-go. And I have lots of different screenshots to show that we're still employing the offside trap. We're still, not letting the line drop as far as you maybe other teams would, against a Man City. So I just have some examples. And this is one of them. This is 3 minutes in. And look at Spurs, straight away, right? First 15 minutes, lots of teams wouldn't want to go against Man City like that. They wouldn't want to try to open the game up, but we're going toe to toe with them, high line from the get go, trying to win the ball high up the pitch. And this is dangerous, right? This is, again, the risk that Ange is willing to take, the bravery that he plays with, because most teams, my belief, I even myself, as you know, Dave, I'm a conservative guy. I'd probably like to see out the first 15 to 20 minutes against City and then maybe look to try to press them on later in the game. But that's not Ange. He's going to do it from the get-go. And here's an example. So he obviously isn't employing a deep, low block like people were saying straight away here. There's plenty more to look at, but this is a really good chance that ends up coming out from it, right? Comes with the risk, goes into Phil Foden there, and then it's given to Erling Haaland, who I think did waste probably. This is maybe one of his better chances, I felt like, on the day. Because he doesn't have the ball yet, but look how much time and space he had to think about. He just had a lot of time and space to think about the moment. Ben Davies actually does well here. He's, a little bit to the left to track back and put him under pressure and make him miss the shot. But that was just an example of the high line and one of the big chances that did go to Erling Haaland. Ange's tactics are fun to watch, unlike the boring Gooners at Dark-Sun See, that's the thing. We're not playing with every man behind the ball for all 90 minutes. We're trying to take the game to him. And the other thing, too, is, Arsenal have really praised their own performances against Man City in the past, but every single time, Dark-Sun we just give them a good game, whether it's Sanchez on the pitch or whether it's Van de Ven on the pitch. We'll give them a good game no matter what. And we'll always put in, a very brave performance, I think, against Man City. But Arsenal seem to praise themselves even more than we do whenever we come up against them. This was a Dragic mistake, not really too much to point out about it, just something that I thought, because Dave, I'm trying to show us a lot of praise, but also just point out.
Do you know what, for me, Jack, what I would point out is I don't think he actually needs to go out that far.
No, he doesn't.
There's a midfielder there, there's a fullback there, and Pedro Porro, Kulu's back there. There's 4 of them. He sucked 3 of them in, and he does one spin, and he's in. That's not good enough from Radu Dragic. For me, he's just got to tuck in a bit more beside Ben Davies and let Pedro Porro go and deal with that, or let Sarr go and deal with that. There's no need for him to be dragged out there.
Absolutely. And if you do go out there, you have to win it. And the other thing is, too, is that look at the space that he's also leaving, by doing that. So you really do have to guarantee that you are going to win it. Savio or Savinho gets in behind here, and it leads to another decent chance for Haaland. But that time he actually did get a good shot on goal. I think it was good more save. Just a good save from Vicario. And it ended up being. This was the Madison goal, 12 minutes in, 13 minutes in. It started out from a Dragic long ball, and this is kind of that hold-up play that I was talking about from Kulusevski here, because we know kind of pings it over to the corner, just barges Guardiola off of the ball, has a really nice touch from here, and then you can see the workings already. And this was what made that goal beautiful for me, Eddie and Dave, was that you could actually kind of see the goal before it happened, and you were praying that Kulusevski sees the run, plays the pass perfectly. And then once he does, it's just one of those goals that I think is just that little bit better, because if you see it even before it's about to happen and then it happens and just the way you imagined it, it's I don't know, something really aesthetically pleasing, I think, about that, at least for me. And also credit to Madison, because if you watch back the replays of this, Gundogan maybe getting a little bit on in age, in my opinion, kind of shucks off the responsibility of having to track this run for Madison. Madison takes advantage of it, continues the run, pushes past him, and what a ball this was from Kulusevski. You can see it again here. What a lovely angle. Madison, you can see he's even not even looking at Kulusevski. He's looking at the space that he wants to run into. So it's very clever from them both. And then once he plays it, let's just all take like maybe a pause or a breath of fresh air, because look where this ball is landing. I mean, Dave, it's like it landed into a cradle. He landed into a crib, Kulusevski. It's just delicately placed. Even saying delicate is probably not even nice enough. It's perfectly onto James Madison's foot. It's just so gorgeous, that image.
Look, it's absolutely perfect. I mean, it's right on the 6-yard box. You're 5, 6 yards out. You can't miss that. It's horrible. They call it the corridor of uncertainty in there behind the back line and between the goalkeeper. They call that the corridor of uncertainty. And there's a reason why. It's because the ball can go anywhere from there. And it's an absolute delicious ball. But, we've seen this from Kulusevski. He has that ability to be able to do that. But in fairness to James Maddison, what I will say is, there's been a lot of times he's made that run and has been played. There's sometimes, Jack, where me and you have sort of bemoaned his first touch. It's sort of maybe...
Yeah, he's messed these chances up before.
If I remember correctly, there was a couple against Brighton. There was a couple of other games this season as well. So that is a run that James Maddison is continuing to make. And if we keep finding it, is another outlet sort of goals. Yeah. And it sort of gives Dom Solanke that bit of support rather than us having to get out wide and just constantly put the ball into him or look to feed it in him. If Maddison can make that second man run, Dele Alli used to do it off Harry Kane the whole time. Very good.
No, Eddie, yeah, just look at that image. Gorgeous image, right? I mean, it's almost like what you want to put on a screensaver.
It is what you want to put on a screensaver because Maddison saw the goal from the very start. The moment he went out to Kulusevski, he knew what he was going to do. He saw the space, he took it. And Kulusevski, all he needed was one look up, and he saw what Maddison was doing, and he saw what he needed to do. Because you see, if you're seeing the way he played, you look at Kulu, he takes one look up, back down at the ball, and passes it, went right into the perfect spot for Maddison to just one touch it into the goal. Don't have to think about it, just one touch it, right past Maddison, no chance.
But this is also an example of why movement is so important. There's an old famous phrase in football: you make a good run, it almost demands that football. And that's exactly the run that Maddison made. Now, obviously, you have to have the players around with the ability to be able to feed that. But the run is so good. How can you not play that as soon as you see it?
No, absolutely. Dark Sun G talking about Kulu captaincy, another great talking point, maybe for the future. Has Kulu emerged, right, Dark Sun? We've been saying this for a while, like who in the squad is like a future leader? Because it feels like right now, right, we just don't have anybody that really obviously stands out as like that next Roy Keane type player, or at least a modern version, let's say, of one. Kulusevski probably putting his hat into the ring in the past few weeks, by the looks of things. I thought originally...
Is he vocal enough, though? Is he like the other leaders we have? That's the only question I have, Jack, where... is he one that leads by example and will do a lot on the pitch? But that's fine. But sometimes when you're doing it, you also need to turn around and question others why they're not following your example. Does he have that ability?
Conversation worth having for sure. Another example of the high line, just to make you happy, Dave, because you can see it. It's narrow. It's still the same principles. And this is the thing I find funny is, like, part of it is just Man City by being a very good team that dominates possession, that spreads the pitch. Look at the way they're spreading the pitch and also putting the players in midfield. That's going to forcefully, if they are good on the ball and if they are a good team, they're going to naturally force that line to drop slowly back. But it's not like we're retreating back to our own goal. Like, we're still employing the high line. We're still trying to eventually make that line even higher if we can. So the moment Man City go backwards, we're going to push that line higher. It's just, now that they're threatening us, we do have to sort of start sagging off a little bit. But it's not like they're dropping back in the way that people were describing. And there are more examples I have, but, just wanted to make yourself happy with that, Dave. And here's an example again where Haaland could be played in behind here. But look, they're all trying to play him offside. They're all trying to, play that offside trap. They're not trying to just retreat immediately back to goal the moment that Haaland is capable of being played in behind. It's still the exact same principles. Ange has not changed the principles. He's not changed the philosophy at all in this game.
No, 100%. And that's what I was maybe trying to explain yesterday when we were doing the watch along, that, I think to a degree, did he change the tactics in the second half? Or did Man City force us back with the amount of possession? I do think there's an element that we did allow them a bit more possession in the second half. But we didn't go out there with the intention to sit in the first half. And that's what I was trying to get across to Rhino. Once we got the job done and we played our ball, then in the second half, I'll agree. Maybe we sat back a little bit more. We showed a lot more of a compact shape and did look to play on the counter. But by then, Ange Ball had already done the job it's designed and it's intended to do. And the reason behind the high line is actually so that your midfield can push up and get pressure on the ball. If you play a low defensive line, it allows other players then to drop into them space between your midfield if your midfield go and leaves huge gaps. So the whole idea behind the high line is so that your midfield can push up, turn ball over, like Maddison done, like Basuma done, like Sarr done. That's why Postecoglou wants to make it compact. That's why he picked the physical squad, so they could go out there, get amongst Man City, turn the ball over, and go at them and get the goals. Once we'd done that and we had the clinical nature, then we did sit back and we sort of contained it a little bit and said, right, we will play on the counter. But we didn't go out there like Arsenal did, sit 11 men behind the ball and stuff like that. And that's where I don't agree with everyone who's like, oh, he played this counter-attacking football and all.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was more a tale of two halves. But Ange ball was what put us in the position to be able to play the second half the way we did. And that's what I think people need to recognize.
Look at this high line here. And then also for the second goal, 19 minutes in, look how high we're pressing. Look how many Spurs players are in Man City's half in this situation. Yeah. And Dave is completely right, Eddie, where we get ourselves 2-0 up because of Ange's tactics, because of Ange's philosophy, because of his principles. We get ourselves 2-0 up. Maybe we try to defend the lead with slightly different, micro adjustments to those principles, to those tactics. But you don't find yourself 2-0 up by sitting back or doing something different. He did the same thing that he always does, trying to take the game to the opposition. We get our rewards for it, being 2-0 up, and then he sees the game out in a different way. But I completely agree with that point that we don't find ourselves 2-0 up if it isn't for the same tactics that he's always tried to employ.
What Ange has done for the past two fixtures against Man City is, this was a talking point that me and my dad was talking about the first time we against the Cup fixture. What Ange did was he invited Man City into his half and then immediately got his midfielders to press that ball. And still kept the high line and still kept that sort of front foot football, but it's allowed us to sort of bring Man City a bit more out of their shape while also pouncing on them and also having that sort of high line so we can immediately go and counter-attack. People will start calling, no doubt there will be some fans calling out a counter-attack football club, but out of the 27 goals we've scored in the Premier League, top of the chart, mind you, only 7 of those goals have came from counter-attacks this season. The rest of them have been from normal build-up play that we have done this season so far. We aren't a counter-attacking team, or the system that lends itself to our counter-attacking football, especially with the players we have. We have Johnson, we have Timo Werner, we have Papa Matasar, who's have quite good legs. Bissouma, all of these players have a lot of legs and a lot of speed to use and to get up the pitch. And the system that lends itself to counterattacking. It's not a counterattacking system. It just lends itself. It helps. And it's just a benefit of what the system brings. It brings multiple different sort of attacking options. Absolutely. And we'll see the benefits of that in more games to come.
And if only we played Man City every week and see these tactics. Pressure for the second goal comes from Pedro Porro initially. Then I think they make a bit of a rogue pass here, initially intended, I think, for Rico Lewis and Gundogan. Gets past Gundogan. Just good team pressure, I think, all around from Sarr, from Pedro Porro, Kulusevski, everybody involved. Gets on to Maddison here. Sonny also just kind of ready to receive it. I just think more, just Maddison and Sonny here just showing real quality, because Maddison quickly firing it into Sonny makes an intelligent run beyond him. And then Sonny does so well here, Dave, by probably, like you say, maybe he knows that he'll draw all the attention, because the way he cuts inside, he draws all the attention because everybody sucks over to the right side. And then he plays that little poked pass over to Maddison. And it's just a lovely goal. Between the two of them, guys, which one was your favorite? The first or the second? I think both of them are just really, really lovely. I might give the first one, the nudge, but I did think that Sonny's pass was a very intelligent pass, to do that, to basically know that, yep, if I cut inside, every single Man City player is going to all of a sudden come flying across, to try to make the block. And then I'll just slide it across to Matters. It's very intelligent.
Do you know what? Maybe I'm old-fashioned, and I do prefer the first goal with that ball across from Kulusevski into Maddison. You don't see too many goals like that in modern-day football.
I prefer the first.
But that second goal, Maddison makes that goal. Once he passes that ball, there's many times where he's often just stood there. He doesn't. He makes that run. He realizes it's bunched up over the right-hand side. There's space there. I'm going to make that option for Son. Now, to be honest with you, did Maddison expect he was going to get the ball? I don't think so. I think what he was trying to do is try and drag players with him and allow Son that opportunity to be able to shoot. However, what you see is 3 players go and focus on Son, ignore the run, which frees up Maddison, which I'm speaking about. He draws players in. He plays them in. Maddison finishes it. It is a beautiful goal. I think Maddison does create it with the unselfish run. But again, it's what I'm talking about with Son. Even though he may not necessarily have contributed as much as others on the day, he draws that attention. Everyone, as soon as he got that ball in the middle, treat him straight on him, forget about everybody else. It opens up space.
No, it did. And you might be right that Madison didn't expect it, but what a first touch he had. It was a delicious first touch, actually, to then chip it over the keeper here. And who doesn't love a little Davy Dink? Definitely Madison attended the Davy Harris finishing school.
He
Not
did.
sure if Liam Delap did, though, over the weekend.
A few
Dark Sun
more,
G saying,
yeah. No, I was going to say a few comments there from Dark Sun G.
yeah, Dark Sun CJ is saying, Gunner's living on that goal Martinelli scored 2 seasons ago. That's hilarious. And then he's saying, on that matter, second goal, Solanke blocked Lewis from getting the ball in NBA terms. It was like a screen. I think just Solanke and the whole team there just do such a good job pressing. And like we were bringing up earlier, Dark Sun G, there was this opinion that kind of came out from a lot of Spurs fans thinking that Ange really adjusted and adapted his tactics for this game. Just don't really subscribe to that, because you look in the first 20, 25, even 45 minutes, to be honest, we're playing the exact same way we always have under Ange. And you see 7, 8 Spurs players inside Man City's half there trying to win the ball back. And we're already 1-0 up at that stage as well. A lot of teams, and I don't blame a lot of teams, but a lot of teams, when they find themselves 1-0 up, it's not like they're already looking to see the game out, but they do already look to try to slow the game down, take some sting out of it, that type of thing. We're not doing that. We're just taking it to them full throttle. And it was really impressive to see. Not only is that Ange playing better in his first 2 seasons than Lego had, yeah, probably a fair point as well, there, Dark Sun G. And Lego had, right, shown so much praise for his performances against Man City. But yet any Spurs manager, Conte, Ange, even Nuno, shown barely any at all, it feels like, whenever they get a result against Manchester City.
Do you know what it nearly made me sick, Jack, actually, against Arsenal against Man City, was the fact that, for years, Sky Sports have been getting behind Guardiola. This is the way to play. It's beautiful to watch, everything else. The minute Arsenal rock up, get a result playing, defensive football, all of a sudden they study the art of defensive football, how beautiful it can be. They completely changed tack just to praise the darlings. They're not going to do that for us because they're all shell shocked. They all know secretly, if we get this right, fear us. They all know that, but I don't think we've got as much praise, or it's been broken down as much as that beautiful Arsenal defensive football that they've been trying to steer away from quite some time.
No, they're probably still praising themselves for that performance earlier this year. They're probably still talking about it to this day, where probably a week from now, everybody will forget that even Spurs did beat Man City 4-0. They'll probably forget very quickly.
Well, if we lose to Fulham, I mean, I can understand why they lose it very quickly,
Highline example, just once again, Eddie, and, this is now 21 minutes in. I have some other examples later on in the second half, but the only thing I can say is Ben Davies is just what I wanted to be a stickler. Ben Davies, even though we've had a great season with him, he is the one to often cheat, I will say, compared to the rest. The rest of the team do a pretty good job of trying to hold the line. But Ben Davies, maybe because he's above 30 years of age, every now and again looks to try to give himself that cushion. I don't blame him, but just everybody is holding the line except for Davies. So it is another example of a high line minus Ben Davies, maybe.
To a degree, I think he knew he could get away with it because City they're not a team that usually play the ball over the top, right?
Yeah.
But also, at his age, 33 years, what is he, 32, 33 years of age? Yeah. Haaland's a physical specimen, even for a 20-odd-year-old to try and handle. I think he actually makes the right decision. If he gets up with that line and that ball is spun in behind, Haaland does them for pace and he does them for strength. So I think what he's actually trying to do, if that ball does get played in behind, he gives himself that 5 yards to get turned, pick up that ball and clear it or give it back to the carrier, rather than try and enter a foot race and a physical race with Haaland.
And then this was another example, and you'll see it throughout this game again, but another part of Ange's principles that we've become very familiar with, one of those classic offside traps that we get people on, is when they do get in behind us, we do actually look to try to set another offside trap right at the edge of right at the edge of the box, because it's an easy marker. It's like a good reference point. It's kind of like, okay, everybody stop here, and then you'll catch every single player, with forward momentum going forward, and you'll catch them all offsides. And this was just, again, another example of similar principles that I'm noticing from Ange. And here are more, screenshots I was able to take. It's just, very another one is what I wrote. But yeah, plenty of examples. I just think, look at there, right? Ben Davies, Udogie, all looking to catch them offsides there. And they did. They caught them all offsides. Vicario makes a spectacular save. If you remember correctly, right? He had that save from, I think it was Savio, who had that header, and then he makes a great save there. But it was a brilliant high line kept by the rest of the team. Onto the Porro goal. This is now 51 minutes in here. It gets, I think, originally sent into Phil Foden. Good pressure from Pop Matasar, makes him lose it. Then it's cleared away expertly by Ben Davies. And then from here, it's just all day on Kulusevski. He beats the referee first, which is pretty impressive. Doesn't get in his way. And then finds a way to get past Gundogan here. Even just looking at this picture, not an easy area to work yourself around. Ends up megging, I think, Gundogan. Then from here, he somehow gets out of this area, gets it past Kyle Walker. It's like watching Messi, Dave. Like you said, it's like watching Messi. This image, then this image. It's like Messi. Gets it onto Sonny. And I will say, this touch from Sonny to then knock it on to Kulusevski is also quite funny, because in kind of a cartoon element, these two players, I think it's Akanji and it might be Kyle Walker. I think they both like clatter into each other when Sonny plays the slow pass, which I just find very funny. You can kind of see the image there of them both kind of running into each other afterwards. Goes on to Kulusevski. Sonny's breaking free, and Spurs are in. If I were to be critical of Solanke, Dave, I agree. He doesn't get the service he deserves, but could he make this run a tad bit wider if he wanted to?
Yes, that's what I'm doing as a striker. I'm sort of anticipating. So what he does, I think,
he starts here in the middle, but he could maybe tailor it a bit wider, right?
No, but also when that ball's coming across, I'd also be running at an angle, anticipating that I want that to bounce onto my right foot, take that touch and bang it. I think he doesn't sort of make that angled run. I think he sort of runs straight, realizes it's just gone a bit, and then goes after it. Whereas I think from there, he sort of needs to make that angled run a little bit to anticipate the bounce. And I think that's where he got it wrong personally.
I agree. It's Kulusevski, we know, is still capable of making that a perfect pass, but it's just, if you want it to be slightly fair to Kulu and also be slightly harsh towards Solanke, you could say maybe he could think about making that run just tad bit better.
Because you have to also understand, right? It was pissing rain as well, so it's not like it's going to be a dry turf where that ball is going to hold up if Kulusevski rolls it in behind. It's going to skid.
Now, I will say, knowing myself, I would be, tunnel vision, no idea.
You're banging it.
I'm taking a touch here and banging it.
Tyler's banging it.
I think we're all getting tunnel vision.
The
only one that doesn't bang it is me.
But if you have the composure, to take a touch and lift your head, he actually cleverly, Solanke, I didn't get the image for it, but he actually picked up his head before he even touched it here, so that's why it's clever. But to have that composure, to have that unselfishness, and it's just easy money from here. He has two options. He's got Porro and he's got Sarr. Squares it to Porro. And just this is what I meant by this image. Once you saw the ball set up like this, you could close your eyes. It's in the back of the net. Yeah. It's in the back of the net.
You could almost start celebrating.
Yeah, exactly. It was a delicious goal.
Thankfully, he scored it. It got me so many points. So, thanks, Paul. Thanks.
Now, if you were to compare the three goals so far, Eddie, is this one better than the first goal? Because talk about a run from Kulusevski, Messi-like run, Sonny with that dink little pass. We're in behind. Solanke, you think the move is over, has the composure to find Pedro, and then Pedro smashes it into the back of the net. You could make the case that this goal is maybe the better one.
It's the best goal of the day for me. It's you got skills, you got good passing, you got incredible hold-up play from Solanke, and incredible vision to actually see this sort of pass. And this goal actually lends to what I was saying earlier. This system lends itself to counterattacking, because that was a counterattacking goal, and also to what I was saying, we baited City in. We absolutely let the defense open in the end. You saw that we won it back from Foden and immediately started going for the attack, and immediately going, and you saw it was a 2v2 with Kulu and Solanke when Kulu made the pass, and they have four men back here, but we have four men back as well, and as much as open space, he smacks it in, and it's Pedro Porro. He's got probably the hardest boot in the team, and he can smash that ball in. He absolutely smashed it and curves it away from Edison. No chance Edison was saving that, and it's a great goal. Just great for great sort of build-up play, and I want to see more of these goals because it's so much fun seeing them.
Dark Side. Yeah, sorry.
So I was just going to say quickly, I've seen a stat that I think Pedro Porro has more goal contributions than any other fullback in the Premier League since he's joined.
Yeah, that's definitely probably true. Darks and G saying Doherty would not have scored that. Something made me laugh just thinking, like, if that was Serge Aurier, he either would have banged this or he would have missed the ball entirely, like would have whiffed the ball, basically. I remember Serge Aurier would find himself in these opportunities, and occasionally he did actually put him in, but he was a funny player. And then with Doherty, there was that bit of a goal scoring streak, but let's be honest, he would frustrate you. And he wouldn't be able to make this run as well. He didn't have that athleticism to get up and down. Matt Doherty kind of had to pick and choose his moments, when to get forward. Dave, this is probably me being harsh towards Basuma, but this is one of those things. There's just a normal pass gone into him. And look at the minute, 60th minute. This is a huge chance for Holland. He hits the bar from this chance as well. I would like to think that we go out and see this game. It's not like we go on and lose the game, but this would have been a moment where we then give them that little bit of a hope, that little bit of momentum. Because look at this touch that Basuma has. It hasn't even reached him yet. Touches it here. Look how it's the touch of a truck. He has that tendency to just, under no pressure at all, just kind of have this. I don't know if it's even lackadaisical or whatever. Just he doesn't always come across as a guy that's totally switched on in every situation, right? Like Bentancur, or just isn't as tidy, like I said, like Bentancur. And that touch is hilariously poor. It's a touch that I would have had in that position. And then it gets on to Holland and it hits the top of the bar, if you remember that chance. And I'm being harsh here. I'm being nitpicky. I understand. But I just think, like, you
Could have
give
been a momentum swing off. They
you give
scored
them
that
that leg. There's no reason to give them that leg into it. And I think we do win the game still, I'd hope. But then all of a sudden we're nervous, Dave. Like, we don't happy clap for the rest of the 90 minutes. We actually are probably pretty nervous after that.
No, 100%. Like, it could have been a momentum swing on the day. We've seen it against Brighton to a degree. I feel sorry for Basuma, but I don't to a large degree, because I do, like, there I would say to my midfielder, don't do that again. Just pump it. Put it out for a throw and up in the corner flag if you have to. Just do something. Don't do that. But I also think Ange Postecoglou would haul him off if he ballooned that and panicked in that situation. I do think he wants him to try and show that composure. But just Basuma, we just see it too many times, these heavy touches, and that's a problem. Like, it's also a heavy touch that got him the yellow card straight away as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I mean. It's just he has that tendency in his game that I find kind of funny. These truck-like touches.
Yeah.
60 minutes in, another example of the high line. Just wanted to show it. Yes, Man City, they have us countered here, but it's not like we were sprinting back to our goals to set up. Again, we're still trying to catch people out.
Well, if you play low block, you don't get countered, yeah.
Exactly. And even Dave, look at here. We still use that, box as a reference point to catch people off with an offside trap. Majority, if you talk about a low block defense, my picture of a low block defense, all of those defenders there are inside the penalty area, right in front of Vicario.
Your midfielders are on the edge of the box.
And then your midfielders are on the edge of the box. That's what I think of as a low block defense personally. So it's just the distinction that I'd like to make. And you can even see there that the whole team is ready actually to pounce to, yes, start a counterattack, but also they're not looking to try to drop the line any further than that. That's almost the furthest they will go in these situations, unless, of course, they do end up slipping someone in behind and he does end up being on sides. But again, this is as far as the line is willing to go. And that still shows the element of the principles of the high line, at least for me. And you can see them all, holding on to it. 60th minute in, still trying to catch Bernardo Silva off sides there, So just examples that I want to show maybe to make Dave happy. And then last and certainly not least, just maybe this was fun. A great goal, but I just want to show, the pace that Timo Werner has. Because look, it's actually 50-50 between him and Walker. He gets onto it. Walker, I think, is maybe starting to not realize, his age or something, because
he's slowing down.
He slowed down. He thought maybe he could catch up with him. And this was the oh shit moment, Dave. This was the oh shit moment. Once Werner got here, he couldn't catch up to him anymore.
Do you know what's mad? The overlap we're speaking about last week off the back of the international break. I think it was Roy Keane that walked in and said, Kyle Walker's slowing down. He can't rely on that pace as much as he could. And I think you've seen it to a degree sometimes in this game here, especially with Werner running up against him. Granted, it's 93rd minute. I understand, but when do we see Kyle Walker get burned like that? He's played.
Look at how much of a head start he has too. Look at the head start.
It's not great.
And also Johnson, look how far he had to track back. He was on equal lengths with Werner there. Made the run. Beat everybody. He beat Gavardiol, right? He's level with Gavardiol. Beats him. beats Gundogan at the back post, beats everyone. So the pace of those two is scary. But I did find it funny that Kyle Walker somehow thought that he could keep up with Timo Weenie here. And then once he reached this little moment where they got level, it was very much a no shit. And Kyle Walker was like, oh my gosh, he's actually much faster than me. And then once
Do you
he
know what
got
was
him behind,
hilarious? We were all joking. Get Werner on, let's add the insult to injury. And then he comes on and does that,
Jason Bell saying Werner 1 goal and 1 assist for City this season, and someone said, "What was the stat? Timo Werner? Someone has more goals and assists.
More goals and assists than Philip Foden."
I couldn't believe it.
Well, everybody, there it is. I thought this was actually one of the longer ones, but one of the best ones I think we've done yet. I thought every single little bit in conversation we had was terrific. Edward, I thought you had brilliant things to say. Davo, spot on as always really good little anecdotes. But I must say, everybody, really enjoyed the conversations that we had today. This was terrific, as it should be. 4-0 win. We're going to be buzzing. But we'll say little bits of analysis I thought was really top notch today from you two.
No, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And look, a lot of credit goes towards Jack. He sort of puts all this together. I take care of a lot of the pre-game stuff. Jack does a lot of the post-game stuff. And I actually prefer, I think, doing the pre-game stuff is easier than the post-game stuff. So fair play to Jack for putting all of this together. So give him a round of applause. And Eddie, thank you for your contribution today, lad. Really enjoyed it. It was a really good conversation. I like these when it's real sort of in-depth football. I love it.
Thank you. I just thought I'd come on because I won't be making the fan zone today. I got a long day at work tomorrow. I just found out my boss had resigned, so I got some meetings to have tomorrow and to talk to some higher ups and do some stuff with that. So yeah, I'm just gonna go to bed after I eat dinner, and then
could there be a promotion on the cards for you, Eddie?
Huh?
Promotion on the cards? You're going to be brought up to the starting 11?
There's a possibility. There's a high possibility because I'm in and around that leadership group. So there's a high possibility that I could get that promotion. Yes.
The captaincy. Very nice, Eddie.
Well, we wish you best of luck. What I would say, Eddie, is confidence is key. You're obviously there for a reason. You know you're good at your job. So just don't get nervous. Because I know some people go in with the higher ups and they sit there and they're all nervous and try and play this person to suck up to them. Trust me, it doesn't work. Go in, be yourself, be confident. You know your job, and you'll get the job, lad.
Be the lovely man that you already are, Eddie, just like you are with us and stuff. And you'll absolutely be treasured by them. And best of luck. Get some shut eye. Get some good rest. Get a good breakfast into you as well. Make sure you're sharp. Get some coffee. Get some OJ, some orange juice, whatever you might need to make yourself feel good ahead of it. Get the right breakfast of champions. And thanks, Eddie, for supporting us over on this platform. You've been very, very good to us over here. You help us out a ton. So thank you, Eddie.
Nice, too easy. It's just fun talking football with you guys. So have fun with the fan show, and I'll probably see you guys for any of your live streams you do before the Roma game, and hopefully you guys have a good rest of your week.
All right, appreciate you,
Thank
Eddie.
you, Eddie.
Hopefully see you on the club sometime soon after your promotion. See you, man.
He's not allowed.
See you guys.
He's not allowed.
He's not allowed. He's got to be a good boy for at least a few days. Appreciate you guys.
Going on.
And to Daxon G, Jason Bell, Nick, who else has joined us in here? I think Paul joined us as well at some point. Eddie as well. And Tyler. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today and tuning in. Really appreciate you getting over here and showing us support, guys. Absolute legends. And anybody who's been watching this back on YouTube, please follow us over to this platform and join the fun, and you'd be helping out this channel a ton. But we'll see you next time. Come on, you Spurs. What a